Hey guys, it's been a while since I made a video and a lot of changes have taken place in the last several months of my life. One of which being that I had a dead tooth removed after it was subjected to a root canal treatment 10 years ago. And the point of this video is to explain why. But first, let's establish what a root canal even is. So, a root canal is a dental procedure that began in the 18th century and was intended to treat an infected or inflamed tooth pulp, which is the soft tissue inside the tooth that contains nerves, blood vessels, and connective tissue. And during this procedure, a dentist removes the infected or damaged pulp and cleans and seals the inside of the tooth. Afterwards, a dentist may recommend placing a crown or doing some other restoration to protect and strengthen the tooth. Generally speaking, root canals are considered to be a safe and effective way to save a tooth that would otherwise need to be extracted. This could not be further from the truth. The one and only benefit of a root canal is that you don't have to go through the process of getting a tooth implant or living with a gap in your smile, since you're keeping your dead tooth in your mouth. But it's not worth it. Most people in the West think of teeth as somewhat insignificant, protruding bones that help us talk and chew. So root canals are seen as an inconvenient, harmless procedure that you just got to do. But the reality is that a root canal is the only medical procedure where you leave a dead body part in your body and pretend as though that's okay. For example, if your toe were to become infected with gangrene and you didn't remove it, you would eventually die because the bacteria would not stay confined to your toe. The bacteria spreads to other tissues and organs, and the same goes for a dead tooth. And no, you can't just remove what's inside the toe and leave it on. It has to be fully removed. Even if the infected or damaged pulp in the tooth is removed, it's impossible to eradicate the entire infection. And it does not show up on x-rays due to its minuscule size, so dentists are going to tell you that everything's totally fine. Nonetheless, the bacteria that's been found in root canal treated teeth is the same bacteria associated with decaying organic matter, which isn't rocket science and should not come as a surprise since the tooth is literally dead. There's no more blood supply bringing oxygen and nutrients to it in order to keep it alive. And you may be wondering, well, I know a lot of people with root canals, or I have one, and why do most people who have root canals seem fine? I seem okay. Well, since a dead tooth is much smaller than a dead toe, for example, it typically doesn't cause enough symptoms for the average person to connect the dots. And some people are pretty healthy and physically robust, so it's not going to have much impact on their overall health or life expectancy, but even then, it's still a gamble. This doesn't mean that it's not a constant stressor on the immune system, seeing that it has to deal with this bacteria on a daily basis. So, if you have a root canal, what are your options? Well, this is where it gets tricky. The thing is, in most cases, you're not going to be able to simply go back to the same dentist that gave you the root canal and ask to get it removed. I've tried this, and some dentists even got upset, thought I was insane. I would get into arguments about the procedure itself. The problem is that most dentists mean well, but they've been indoctrinated to regurgitate everything they've been taught in dental school. And one thing they're taught in dental school is how safe and effective root canals are. So you can't really blame them. But you have to really do some research and find a good holistic dentist. I had a root canal on my top front tooth right here in 2012 when I had no idea what the implications of a root canal were. It wasn't until much later that I began to understand that teeth are living appendages connected to organ systems, which motivated me to find someone who would safely remove the dead tooth, clean out the socket properly, and replace that tooth with a non-metal zirconia implant. And after visiting several dentists who all refused, like I said, to extract the tooth and replace it with a zirconia implant. Zirconia is a non-metal alternative to titanium implants because I didn't want to have metal in my skull. But I finally found a holistic dentist who was willing to do this. within just a few days of getting my dead tooth removed, I felt lighter, more energetic, clear-headed, and calm in stressful situations where I previously would not have been. You might be saying, well, that's just a placebo. And I'm sure that plays some part. However, I have not been sick once since I got that tooth removed. I no longer have sinus infections or ear infections in my right ear specifically, which I would get quite often. And I don't know if it's a coincidence that it was in my right ear and the tooth that was removed was on the right side of my jaw. I don't know, but I'm pleased regardless. If it's a placebo that's doing that, awesome. But something to be aware of is that implants aren't cheap, but I would recommend getting one because if you have a missing tooth after getting your dead tooth removed, the lack of stimulation on your jawbone is going to result in bone loss, and it could affect the structure of your face. Among the many jobs of teeth is that they also serve as scaffolding for the face, and since an implant fuses with the jawbone, it maintains bone mass. So for example, in my case, the entire thing, including the extraction, my one tooth denture, because the crown can't be placed yet, the implant and the crown is a total of about 4,000 euros, which is probably a little over $4,000. But in my opinion, that's a small price to pay for removing the burden of decaying organic matter from the body that definitely should not be there. Now, the zirconia implant's been placed, and it has to go through a process called osseointegration before the artificial tooth can be screwed onto it. And osseointegration is the process of the bone fusing with the zirconia implant. And once that process is complete, they'll be able to add the crown since it can now hold weight and handle the force of chewing. I do have to say that people interact with you much differently when you're missing a front tooth. At one point, my one tooth denture broke after I accidentally chomped down on it, and I had to order another one, which took 2 months. So I had to live like this for 2 months and interact with people. But you know what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Anyways, I hope I've inspired you to consider getting your root canals removed if you have any, and if you don't have any root canals right now, maybe you'll think twice about getting one when a dentist will inevitably try to talk you into it in the future. The documentary to watch on the subject is called The Root Cause, which is packed with information about root canals and why they're a bad idea. So, I hope this has been of help. I wish you all a wonderful day.